Before jumping into UV unwrapping and setting up the system for cloning from the reference images to the textures, there's a couple of things really that I should have explained to you before the last stage. The first thing is that the images taken on the phone are at 90 degrees rotated anti-clockwise. So this causes a problem, or it just makes life harder when you're trying to match the projected UV onto it. So if we open all the images in GIMP, we also discover that we can look at the EXIF information, and that has the focal length for a 35mm film. The images are also very large from the phone, so we can reduce them by 50% and they will be fine for cloning from. So we export them all and give them all more useful names like north, northeast, north-northeast, southeast, etc. And we're going to have to delete the ones that we imported previously. And this is a bit of a quirk when we try deleting them. Close Blender and open them again, even though there are 0 users, the images still appear to be, the textures still appear to be there. So just a useful option that you very rarely use, but is sometimes useful. If you go to the outliner editor and choose blend file instead of collections, you can then look at all of the images and specifically delete them. You can look at all the components of the blend file, so it's very useful. And now we have to go through the same process you went through before. You might as well change the focal length of the camera to 26, seeing as that's what it is exactly. And well, check what it is for your phone. I've now got 9 images. In the process of positioning the camera for the different reference images, it's worth honing the positions even more, and in the next stage we'll actually move the mesh to line the buttresses and doors up better, because you'll see that the process of distorting the UV to match the image can create distortions in the resultant texture. I'm quickly going through the process of changing the mesh to match up with the views, and it will become apparent eventually that it's very difficult to get everything lined up. The process of going backwards and forwards from one view to another and tweaking things eventually leads to the conclusion that there's an additional degree of freedom that we're not taking into account, which is the rotation of the phone camera about the horizontal forward axis. And that some of these images we either need to rotate the image relative to the camera, which is what I do here, or alternatively rotate the camera about the local horizontal forward axis. This is very quickly speeding up the iterative process of lining the mesh with the reference images, moving the door to the correct position, moving the buttresses to the correct positions. Difficult to give a rule how to do this, but generally move the points with proportional editing switched on, adjust the radius of the proportional editing. Now, so we've lined the buttress up from one view, and when we switch to another view, the buttress needs to be moved leftwards, and when we go back to the previous view, it needs to be moved rightwards. So there's obviously some insoluble problem here, and we can fix that by rotating the image or rotating the camera so that the perspective on the cuboid part, the top part, allows the camera position to be moved nearer or to one side, and that then allows the buttresses to fit more closely with the reference image. Once the mesh more closely matches the reference images, we can move on to the UV unwrapping and cloning from the reference images to the desired texture.